unkosikazi wakho oh la thanda khona ngithanda ukuthatha lethuba ngibingelele ngokukhethekile mengaka liyaphila bingelele asukuthe kukhona i-50%, almost 50% abantu abayoshada la.
Yes.
All right. Bingelela abantu nabantu babo. I can almost pick up, you know, angibuza ukuthi bapha bayoshada ngakutomlela bona ngithi lo nalo. But no, it's wonderful. It's about time. You know, I normally say umshado is one of the most unfortunate institutions. Because emshadweni ne bona ngisebenze imisebenzi eminingi eyahlukahlukene and kuyo yonke leyo misebenzi leyo akukho la ngafika khona ngangena khona bavele bathi qala usebenze bonke bangithumele bathi no you've got nangiqala ukusebenza emine. They sent me to induction. I worked in the mine some years ago. Bangithumela ku-induction ukuthi bangifundisa ukuthi umsebenzi wala lo engizowenza wenziwa kanjani. Later on I would go ngiphindele esikolweni nangiqeda grade 12 ngoba ngangino JC ngaleso sikhathi ngafunda ngesikhathi sabo JC mina. Nangiqeda ngahamba ngayosebenza futhi ngabuyela la ngafika khona bangimukisa ku-induction still, but we're going to train you ukuthi how you do this job. So if you want abantu ukuthi bakusebenzele kahle, you explain ukuthi you define ukuthi ufuna abantu bokwenzani, and then you interview people, you place an advertisement, and then you call people in. And then you interview them. And after interviewing them, and then you shortlist. Ngiyacabanga ukuthi bonke abasazoshada lapha ngazi noma shortlistile nawe yabona thola ukuthi lo yilo ogcine abiziwe, and then bonke abanye abo sorry ke sorry if you do not receive a response from us in the next 3 months, you might as well conclude that your application was unsuccessful. And that's where but I am going to get there. So it's very, 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 very important. At this point in time, it's very, very, very important. Because you have said yes to somebody you hardly know, and well, you probably might think you know, or to a certain extent you know, which is fine. And you've said yes. That's called faith. Faith, by the time you sign, I do. As if you do what? It's take this as a till death. That's faith. Ngamanye magama, you've just said, without actually mentioning it, you've just said, whatever comes. You've just said a statement, whatever comes, and you've put your signature there. Do you know whatever comes routine? You can't sign a document, even in the business world. You don't sign a document now later, OT. No, bengazi. At least manje, according to imithetho, trade laws, you a chance with 21 days ungathi nongisayine angisayinanga kahle bengakacabangi kahle 21 days. But emshadweni, by the time you say I do, it means you've weighed your options. It means you've calculated the risk. It means you have said, despite it all, I do. And in spite of, I do. You've calculated the risk, yoguti. That is not a risk, that's a certainty. This one is certainty. You're getting married to somebody who is not perfect, which is a blessing for you. Because had you gotten married to somebody who is perfect, you were in a mess because you're not. Right? Which is very important. But also, that's a moment during which you've got to be able to say, I remember one of the questions that Usbongile asked on the 26th. One of my responses was, as sooner you know what you want to get married to this woman, if you're a man, spill the beans. Naumshela, spill the beans. Tina, we were raised in the era in Konzin. I like those old men. They would tell us, Mehore, you never say to a girl, I love you, unless you're willing to say, I want to marry you. Say, you don't do it. And I kept to that. And by the time you say, I want to marry you, but I want you to listen to who I am, where I come from. Because that is important. Questions would arise as it is, when do I tell this man or this woman where I come from? Should I wait until Sishata? Or should I say it now? Or I'm sorry, it's better for umuntu ozoshada naye ukuthi azi manje. Spill the beans. Spill the beans. Both my parents have passed on. Let me tell you what my father said at some stage. I remember nangiqeda ukuqonywa ngashela nama ngithi. So nangiqeda ukuqonywa and I went home. Ngifika ngabatshela ukuthi no manje ngihlangene nentombazane engiyithandayo engifuna ukushada nayo and sesivumelene sengizo arrange ukuthi bangaya nini. Thina enkonzweni, this is how they had regulated this thing. They said, mangabe uzoshela intombazana, especially nangabe la enkonzweni, nayithi yebo, uthumela bakini within that month. And niyaphakanyiswa enkonzweni. Ukuphakanyiswa is announcement enkonzweni nababa. So wathi nakathi yes, and then I went home. That weekend I went home and I spoke to my parents and then that was it. Now later on, my father would ask me, says Shatil, would ask me something very interesting. He said, does your wife know about affairs you've had before? Or is my father? I said, yes. And he said, about this? Yes. About that? Yes. About that? Yes. And then I said to my father and my mother, I said, there is nothing umngami azoyizwa ngani like Kaya for the first time. All anybody can tell her, I've told her before. So by the time, sizoshada, no, by the time athi yes, bekati yes azi yonke into. At least ebalulekile okudinga ukuthi ayazi. Bekazi ukuthi ngikhule njengabanye abafana. Bekazi ukuthi ngibe neintombi ngasindiswanga. Bekazi zonke lezi zinto lezi. Bekazi ukuthi I've had a past that I'm not proud of, but it's part of my past. But I think nangithi kuye yabona mntwana nangabe I'm aware ukuthi you might not like where I come from, you know. But if you think you like where I'm getting to, come with me. I think into ayefuna ukuyizwa wayefuna ukuzwa ukuthi I've cut loose of my past. One day she would tell me, Uti, you know what? When I said to you, I would bring tembe wena. Mix. That's what she said. I would bring tembe wena. Or I trusted the one who is in you. Or I said yes. But despite that, I loved you and I love you. But bengathemba ngawe. One umuntu ongathemba wena after umtshele zonke lezi zinto lezi. You know, you can't leave. You don't want to get married and say, after 3 years, say, there's something I didn't tell you. What? I've got a child that I call. Yabona umntana uvame ungena lana lo othi mama kumamami kahle kahle umntana. I know cases like those. Person is gone. It's just the person is not going to trust you. Spill the beans. Nangabe uyakuthatha akuthathe. Nangabe akaphumeleli angaphumeleli njalo. I would like you to maybe amongst the things you're going to talk about also include something very interesting. When do I tell the boy that when do I tell him that I'm actually HIV positive? The one born again. When? Do I wait until at young tata yolobola? When do I tell him that I've had 2 abortions? There are cases, khona amantombazana ale umshado a number of times. Girls amanye I've spoken to. Simply because they cannot bring themselves to say to this man, I've had 2 abortions. She cannot face that. What if I cannot bear children? Then it is that but what if this man, I'm not willing to tell, finds out 10 years later? Because there's nothing hidden. I'm saying to you guys, it's very, very, very important. It's one of the very, very critical moments in your life. That's where trust does not just come. Trust is not bestowed. Trust you earn. If your partner is going to trust you, you've got to work at it. It's very, very important. Well, njengoba nizongena emshadweni angazi ukuthi nithi ningena kuphi. Angazi ukuthi at the back of your minds yabo ukuthi nithi ningena kuphi, what your concept of marriage is. I've asked a number of people. The answers were very, very, very interesting. Ngiyazi ukuthi nifunda incwadi eziningi, niyafunda all these things, and ngiyazi ukuthi nizongena emshadweni seniphethe ama-spices okuspice umshado yabona, right? Ningena vele vele niphethe ama-spice to spice this thing up, right? Umani, yebo niyafunda incwadi to spice this. Which is fine. Me ngile kare at a certain event, you know, it would be interesting ukuthi bangakho abantu abawaziyo umshado ungaspayiswa ungana ne-explain as it is. Khona ezinye izinto ongazazi ozidlayo endlini. Utho because since nashada unkosikazi wakho bekaloku azispayisa. So awuyazi ukuthi naye ngaspayiswanga nayi plain. But this is broccoli. You eat it like it is. nice spicy where it's accommodating your taste, but not say it's broccoli. It's going to benefit you. Steam it up and eat it, maybe even better. Even better. Because that's how it benefits you. Umshado in its most basic forms, ungenama spices, ungana next. Uhamba njengama principles. Maybe I'll touch on that as I conclude. Umasuku has done a lot of my introduction. Ngicabanga ukuthi sasasukuma mamsiyo bila sesiqedile manje sesiqedile on this one. The topic is, what do men want from their wives? Ladies, I want you to listen very carefully. Here's an answer. You might as well write it down, man. It's very interesting. To be honest, more than 80% of my children are wazafunayo. And it is so true. But this, it does not give you a license to jail. I'm just saying. A lot of they don't know. They don't know. Into ayazi, I mean, wabona wena wakuthanda bona, wakushela wamqome bona. All right, akazi ukuthi ufunani ngaphandle the obvious engizokhuluma ngazo. Obvious. There are less obvious, there are obvious. Amadoda amaningi awazi. But having said that, despite ukuthi awazi ukuthi afunani, they always know what they don't want. Now ungabuza amadoda la ngaphandle ukuthi bafunani, they probably take some time before they answer. But now uthi yini ongayifuni? Angifuni umfazi ozulayo. Immediately it doesn't have to think a lot about this. Bayazi ukuthi abafuni ini. It's just that they haven't sat down and said, what do I want? Maybe that's the problem. That's one of the things that constitute a problem. It's true, I've asked a lot of men. I talk with a lot of men. Almost on a daily basis. Abafree nababoshiwe. So, kakhulu with men that are in prison than abantu abafree. And when I have a chance of speaking to the men and interview them on these issues, they just don't know. Sengathi besingahlala eceleni namadoda ke ngibuza kahle ukuthi yabona bengicabanga ukuthi mhlambe ke senzeni i-questionnaire amadoda abhala ukuthi ufuna ini ngapha bhala ukuthi ufuna ini ngapha bhala awufuni ini. You'd be surprised ukuthi into angayifuni ziyi-10 ayifunayo mhlambe ziyi-2. Because he never really thought about what he wants. Him out. Phamsanzana. Nangabe ngiqinisile, phamsanzana all right, ngiqinisile mhlambe 50% ngiqinisile, phamsanzana. Asho ukuthi no lady izokuthelela amanzi, nawufika ekhaya izokuthelela amanzi ukuthi yeah, uzakutshela ukuthi yeah, kudala ngisho ukuthi uyazi into oyifunayo. Kudala ngitshela. No? Uyazi. That's why men have to be taught what to want. And how to want it, maybe. And what to do about it. Ziningi izinto amadoda angazifuna nakuthela nje wayeka. Ziningi izinto amadoda angayifuna. But because I believe that we are going to have a very vibrant discussion, maybe I'm going to touch on these few issues and then leave them so you can raise questions maybe at the right time. So we begin to talk about these things, because what can help is to really engage on these things. And I prefer talking to men. I prefer sitting with them around the table, and then yes. What do men want? Top of the list. Yabantu asebashadile umasuku uthi for 5 years angatholi kahle ukuthi kwenzekani. Ukuthi ukuphi la? It's possible. It's possible. Now, if you've been married for 1 year or 2, and umshado uhlupha kaso, especially emadodeni. With women, it might be a different issue. Amadoda, they know how, like your husband or your fiancé pursued you until he got you. Amadoda, they know how to do that. They know how to hunt and get the prey. The problem ukuthi wenzani ngayo nasela ngaba inkinga nyana ke lapha yabona ukuthi ngaba inkinga nyana ukuthi that's why kulula to go out and hunt again, because that's natural for him, It's natural. It's natural. As a young boy, nabangani bami, my activities were to the ahamba ngokuthi ngiyamfuna lo mntwana sibani yazi. Lo mntwana lo ngiyamfuna. Sengimtholile lo mntwana lo. That's what we did at school, You've got this girlfriend and then you told her, munyu lapha. That's what we did. Then it would be a competition. That's why bozamlandelela uze umhlule ngamagama. Esizulwini ukuthi hayi usungihlulile intombi nasithi usungihlulile ngamagama. Then umfana leso sikhathi uthi ya. Isikhoka, I am the man. But net nakusuka lapha akazi kahle. Konje say. Nasekunje. I remember nabengishele for the first time ngiqonyo for the first time. Ngifakwa abangani mami ngenhloko shela le ntombazana yangiqoma. I think I was doing started 8 or something, Form 3 or Form 2 or something. Layithe nasekathe kulungile angisazi ukuthi sizoxoxana so sengithini so the kulungile nathi kulungile alright ngizakubona kusasa. It's it has always been an issue. And nani ma-out niyazi mhlambe ke senisizwa nama-cellphone lezinto lezi nifunde ama-cellphone mhlambe senikhuluma amagama amnandi niwabona kuma-soapy. But thina ke besingana, we didn't have that. We didn't have that. Lenini nasihlangene bokufanele sifune ukuthi maye sesithini labantu sesithini yabona sesithini. That's why the next thing, now uhlangana naye manje bokuphi izolo iquery uza ngequery yabona iquery uqala ngequery it might be different maybe in your generation, but in our generation it was a little different, guys. I'm telling you, it was a little different. We just didn't know. But I don't think that has changed much. I don't think it has changed much. Tina, as men, we have to learn. We have to learn to relate beyond ekunqomeni. We have to learn. Because it's easy for us to start a relationship. To sustain it is a different thing. With a lot of men, to sustain a relationship is okay. So, number one, let's talk about respect. This concept it has been an enigma for a lot of people, and an enigma nasombuza ukuthi respect yini, sengathi bengahambisa amaphepha la ngibhala ukuthi yini respect vele. But let's try to explain that. Let's try what do you understand respect to be? Now, when the word respect comes up, ucabanga ukuthi yini? Ucabanga ukuthi yini? Who wants to volunteer? There's no wrong answer because I think it's a relative term. Yeah, when isandla siyaphakama says, oh, bengithi siyaphakama. Respect ma out yini vele. What do you understand by respect? What do you just bengithi lenkosi yaphendula. Sir, that's going to help us as bengitheng that nangifika la ngaphambili ngithi mhlambe let's just say who we are, where we come from. So when you just come, when you respond, maybe bless us with your who you are, and then so we can know. Surname, nomuhamba wedwa nomuhamba. So thola chance yokuzintroduce again. No introducer oseceleni kwakho. Yes. Is it on? All right.
Okay, I'm one of the 50%. So I'm one of the 50%.
All right.
Yeah, but we've been going on for 4 years. So.
Yeah, right.
My name is Mikhail Mabuza. Just going back to the question of what respect. My understanding of respect is that it's a mutual understanding, and it has to be earned. By the way, it's not bestowed. It's has to be earned.
So according to you, respect, you say mutual understanding. All right, just give somebody else who wants to volunteer an answer. Right? With the idea, you don't have to be right. The idea, you don't have to be an idea. Thank you, respect. Ngoba wonke amadoda angimfuni umfazi ongangi-respect. And nangasho siqalela ukuthi uyamfuna umfazi ongangi-respect. Angi-respect. No. All right. Yini respect ukuya ngawe just ilula lento lemasoko. Yazi? Just near any man, because every man wants that. Just any man, just volunteer. Ukuthi, what do you think is respect? Ucabanga ukuthi yini? Na ucabanga nje. Yes.
Amen. I'm outside the 50% anyway. My name is Raymond Masibi. I'm with my wife Komoto from Krugersdorp. Right. Yeah, respect is broad. Respect is loving. Respect is hearing each other out. Respect is, like he said, mutual. Both ways in every aspect of life. For me, that's respect.
Right. Anyone wants to add? Add. The way he looks at me, he wants to add.
I'm Maris Mukhosi, and I'm with my wife here, Tandela. So to me, respect can also be forgiving somebody, and then also, like the gentleman said, having to listen to somebody when they speak. So basically, more has to be like listening skills, understanding the type.
Right. Okay. Let's give the last volunteer. Volunteer ukubana volunteer. And now back then we don't want to volunteer. Hello, you volunteer.
My name is Chidi. My understanding about respect is being able to understand each other and
Just one thing. This is like a respect is when my wife listens to me when we talk and execute what I said must be done. When she does not listen to me, if meeting, ngifuna ukufika endlini ngo-6 ngithole ukudla kushisa, and I get home
and she's still cooking, then she's not respecting my wage.
Obedience is you say it's not obedience, it's
Oh, it's subservient. All right. Is that bad? Is that a bad way?
all right. You know the reason I'm asking you? It's because respect we have found it's it's a relative term that means different things to different people. And when you meet with people, abeze, we counseling or wana abantu who are just about to divorce, you realize ukuthi kahle they're looking for something they cannot really pin their place their finger on whose pulse they cannot place their finger. But irrespect the lack of which is ala into his name. So abanye bathe is mutual. It's mutual. What is mutual? You said it's mutual. Yeah, mutual understanding, and then it includes loving, it includes hearing each other, hearing the other side. It includes forgiveness, it includes a number of things. By definition, in terms of what it is to different people, maybe we can spend a lot of time dealing with that. Maybe during a discussion moment, we are going to do that. But irrespect, wonangani nangabe ayiko. You see, the word respect is one of those words which are very difficult to define. Define. Maru uyayibona nangabe ikhona noma ayikho. Right, lapho? All right. Amadoda amaningi would say, I love a woman, my wife, to respect me. And many times amadoda amaningi nawasho njalo. Nina bomage uyazi basuke basho uthini abanye basuke basho almost lento le eceda ukukhulunywa umasuku le yokuthi nangikhuluma into ngifuna umkamenzeni that uyangihlonipha ke na kenza njalo uhlonipha izwi lami nangithi sithenga ama tires nasithi no cereal dispenser Now, for the next 6 months, we're not talking about cereal dispense, how much she can want it. We're not talking about that. We're talking tires. Until even our tires won't. Masugu, the point you were raising, which is very, very, very important. Now, the moment you say we are going to buy tires, there is an issue. Yama curtains. No, my dispenser 129 rand. When ufaka ma tires and give no explanation. And the following month, upajethela bashana and give no explanation. Now, one, she feels disrespected, but also uncared for. That's how she feels. She might not be able to say it. And finally, amadoda yazenza sengathi bona baqeda amadoda aqeda vele baqeda nje sokufanele kufundisa bomama babe right then amadoda aqeda graduate akudala. And now the more you do that, now she begins to withdraw. And she begins not to care. Awufuna ukuhlala nomuntu who doesn't care. Qala kancane kancane masuku. And you don't want to stay with him who doesn't care. Sometimes, even if you don't understand, why marafuni dispenser here? Sisifakile mustana, what ikitepa away corner, sifakile into kutepa away mustana. We are resina when angithi. The latest case I dealt with, I think, that included something like that, was something like lendotale. Engibizi ngamagama amnandi. Most probably imbiza ngomama yona. And then we are just about 35 years old. But we are. I've raised this issue many times. Le ndoda ithi, no ngiyamthanda ngimenzela konke. What's in a name? Yabona yarizini indoda iyarationalize. What is in a name? Mbizi, nangabe ufuna umbize ngobaby, mbize ngobaby. You know. And I like it now umbiza babe. Ungaloku umbiza ngomama lana na uthi mama bazi nombiza umama akho nomubiza you know, it's just. Now the more ungayinaki, yabona. The more ungayinaki, yabona into esimple kanjani. Ngoba ngiyabuza ngithi, "Kodwa beni ngambizi ngamagama amnandi." I mean, what's this thing is easy. I mean, it didn't have to come here. Seyizele into eyiningi, yabo. Izele into eyiningi because she began to withdraw. Angisawafunda lawo magama, angisawafunda lawo magama. Izele into eyiningi. And now she has begun withdrawing. And now when she withdraws emotionally, we are withdrawing now kwezinye izinto. Nini le ndoda iyabona ukuthi mara lo mfazi ungenwe yini? Yini into enzima kanti ekutheni baby le nto irrationality angikwazi ukuthi baby umuntu ongaka yabona it's lalela. This does not have to make sense. It does not have to make sense. A dispenser does not have to make sense. If it can make a relationship, it's enough. It does not have to make sense. Many times it does not have to make sense. Because now Masugu would discover, long time ago, you wouldn't have guessed ukuthi it dispensa nje into enganamsebenzi phela akusho ukuthi lama cereals ahlezi phansi yabona. Aphakathi mostani we-tap away. Now you rationalize it. It is very true ukuthi we think differently. We approach things differently. Njengamadoda. Le ndoda ifuna ukurationalize ukuthi no, bona, I'm at home, I do this, umngami, you should say that to me, nasi-two. Now, ungakhuluma umngakho khona le nto le, akayizwa. She does not understand this. She does not even want to understand that. Call her baby. Call her baby. But yeah, because akasho kimi ukuthi okusho unamahloni uthi naphakathi kwabantu nakaphakathi kwabantu nje uyabona ukuthi akangibizi ukuthi ngiyafuna ukuthi angibize phakathi kwabantu. That was very interesting, you know. Ukuthi ngiyafuna ukuthi angibize phakathi kwabantu athini? Athi baby nangiphakathi kwabantu. Athi baby nje siphakathi kwabantu nje angakho. Okusho unamahloni ngami. Now she concludes. And you know, this man is very much laid back. Ufana noba yabona ubaba mina was very laid back. You know, wangamtshela ukuthi indlu yasha ngaphandle you know, this man is laid back and wants to reason this thing out. And I said to him, you know what? In Vyasha, you are busy doing some other things here. Call her baby. Uthi kusho ukuthi mfundisi kusho ukuthi unamahle kusho ukuthi yabona now she's concluding. She's concluding. And le ndoda imangele beqala ukubona indoda imangele kaso. Uyazimangela ukuthi hawu into encane kangaka ingasho ukuthi, you know. So what it means, ultimately as a couple you've got to work it out as what is it that means respect to you. Indoda yakho wants to be respected. You have to define it. And that man has to sit down with you and say, you know what, I feel angahlala ngayazi yonke into esho irrespect kuye. But I think indoda nayithi kuwe, you know, honey, noma mama, noma mama, nawushoka so, noma nawenza nje, I feel disrespected. And now Tila ngale zinto lezi, rather move away from the you statements. Move away from the you statements. You statements are very much they elicit defense. Now you don't respect me. She's going to defend. But when you say, I feel disrespected, you take your attention away from her to you so that she can focus on you. That's how you deal with men. But also, I think it cuts both ways. Moving away from you statements is very important. You did this, you did this. You did this, you did this. You hurt me. Let me tell you something interesting. If my wife was here, she would confirm this. Nathi ngiyabona besishade emasuku besinabo 5, 6, bo 5 ba. Angazi what is in 5. Yabona na u5 ila ubona khona ukuthi lenda izihambeli. You fell in love, but you'll never just be. You fell in love, but you'll have to walk in love. You didn't do anything to fall in love, but you'll have to do something to walk in love. Angazi noma ngiyayizo ukuthi kanjani. Niqale into without effort. Niqale into engakhona ukuzisustain yona if you don't do anything about it. Iziqalele nanibonana, but ayikhona ukuzisustain. It calls for you to do something in order for it to work. Now, I would learn this I don't say a difficult way, but it took me, I think it took me more than 7 hours. Skuluma 7 hours. Have you ever spoken? Ukuluma 7 hours. As ngikhuluma komamathi, hambe ngikwenza itiye, ngiphuza amanzi. Lapho yizo sibanga ukuthini. Sibanga ukuthi umkami uthini. You hurt me 1, 2, 3 and I was ngithule ngimlalele ngithi salo sami ngiyabuzwa. It's just that I don't think I hurt you. I think you got hurt. That's the same thing. That's the same thing. I don't think so. You see, if Nauti, I hurt you, you make it sound intentional. Shut this stuff 5 years. You make it sound intentional. Namang phone uti gimme, I hurt you. Lending ends good feel like a bad person. Like somebody who will just stand up and take something and hurt my wife, I don't dispute Guti. You got hurt. In other words, it's like my example. And I'm going to go about 8:30, 9 in the evening. Ngithi yabona nangithatha ilitshe ngithi ngiyadlala ngamatshe ngiphosa ilitshe kanti bengingaboni ukuthi uyeza bese uyavela wena bese ushaya elelitshe leli engiliphosile. Bengingakulimazi. Bengingashayi wena. Let angali ukuthi ushaywe ilitshe eliphoswe yini. Right. Now we had sifuna ukudlula lapha mina angifuni ukuthi athi ngimlimazile. Yena uthi no ziyafana lento eyishoyo. Ziyafana mina ngithi no ayifani. We talked saqala ukuvumelana ngiyabona nakuyoshaya abo 4:30 ekseni. Besingaboni kwaba 4:30. Yazi ngicabanga ngithi kuze kwazolamlingelo osina. When sekuyakhanya nangithi kusile. Ubona the light coming through, Kusile. That we're debating issues as it is. I didn't hurt you. But I agree, Uguti, you got hurt, and for that I am sorry. Uguti, you got hurt through what I did. But I did not. Now ngenza the subject, ngifuna ukudefend. Ngoba nama ngifuna, I don't want to hurt my wife. Nezwa kancane. Right. So, it's very, 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 very important, Uguti. Very important, Uguti. How you deal with these things are very important. But avoid as much as possible a you statement. You hurt me, When you say, I am hurt, you give somebody a chance to respond to your hurt. Instead of responding to an accusation. Right? Ngoba, lanauti, you hurt me. that person might not respond to, he hurt. He might respond to you. Eh? Kule statement, now you hurt me. Or responded to the wrong part of the message. Now you hurt me. He might miss the hurt part of it and concentrate on you and defend. He might concentrate on the wrong part of the message. A few months back, jokes from Facebook. Now it was up. But manje ngeke ngisho ke ngibiza amagama ngoba angiyazi le DVD izawuhamba ifike. Othi this guy since angasena space kuphi uthi manje soqhashiwe emaphoyiseni yabo. And njengoba qhashiwe emaphoyiseni uthi kuza umunye umama ozoreporta icase. Uthi indoda yami selokhu ihambile iyothenga isishibo beyothenga inyama for 2 weeks. Ayikabuki for 2 weeks. Uthi manje this guy uthi manje ayike into ongayipheka endlini. Now uyabona ukuthi uresponda, now you see ukuthi uresponda kuphi, you know akakhona ukuthola ukuthi yini issue la. Now when you deal with you statements, when you deal with you statements, lendoda is likely to respond entweni okungasi issue la. But when you say I am hurt, ngalok, the possibility ukuthi lendoda izokulalela is so big. It's so big. It took me more than 7 hours of continuous discussion before ngicabanga ukuthi at least mhlambe sibi-plane A1 nomngami siyezo uyangizwa naye ngiyamuzwa. Then it comes to it's a point that has been raised by somebody else, hearing somebody out. It's part of respect. You know, ukulalela umuntu, when you listen to what a person is saying, it's part of respecting the person. Though it cuts both ways. Yabona na ngathi yakhuluma umuntu athi, "Alright, yekela sengizwile uyaza uzamchaza wena bona uzamchaza." Amadoda afuna ukuchaza indaba, mana afuna ukuchaza ukuthi yabona lento lena athi no yekele vele sengiyezwa vele ngeke salunga lento no ngifuna ukuchaza ukuthi I've heard this a number of times from men. And then I would say, how do you feel when your wife jumps in and cuts you? Now to chaza your own side of the story. And then you would say, I feel disrespected. And ngiyakwata. Bese ngimtshela ngithi ngizakushaya. Indoda normally bathi inama emotions ayidluli yabona i-spectrum se-emotions olathi kwata nokujabula. Indoda but is yet to be taught how to be sad and just to be hurt, you know. But I'm hurt, you know. I'm sad, I'm hurt. Indoda ayikho hurt, ikwatile. Ngizaku amadoda amaningi afila ukuthi now uthi I am hurt because it's a vulnerable position. You know, I am hurt. It's a vulnerable, and they don't want to occupy a vulnerable position. I can't say I'm hurt. Instead, ngathi yabona lento yenzile izolo. Izaba ngumcasula and now look uqhubeka ngayo. Yabona uhurt, yabona uhurt kanti ngabe uyasho ukuthi no, you know I was hurt, no, I was hurt. Izongidina lento. And nasohlezi, yabona sohlezi nabo phansi so check ngathi uyathola uyakhona ukubona ukuthi no, this man was just hurt. But he would never ever get there. Because when you are hurt, not only are you vulnerable, but you admit a side of you that is softer. And the possibility is you might cry. You might cry. That's one thing you don't want to do, eh? That's one thing you don't want to do that. Especially before your wife. Am I out? Especially, that's not what you want to do. You don't want to cry before your wife. You don't want to do that, isn't it? No, you don't. Yeah. So we rather opt for our emotions that are consistent with our, call it ego or something. So we're either angry or happy. Baba akajabulanga namhlanje kwatile. No. Akajabulanga is said, no, you don't go there. Respect is something that you explain to each other as time goes on. But hearing the other side is very, very, very important. Cuts both ways. Do not avoid the temptation. Yokata umuntu off. Manamadoda now they feel disrespected now. Now I feel disrespected when that happens. That's respect. Now there are many things we cannot exhaust that. I believe with each and every man une column yakhe ati I feel respected. You know, if you come from Toyando, a Venda area, anybody from Venda here? That part. Enda. You know, it's some 3 weeks back, I think 3 weeks back, yes, for 2 consecutive weeks, I was in Venda. I observed with the general culture of women towards men. You know, you'd come, abagwazi nukwazi, whether you're getting to the bank or you get, I remember I went to the bank. When I went to the bank, the women are found there in the queue. You know, and the way they would speak to you, and their deportment, what they do when they speak, especially if it's a younger woman, how they speak to a man that is, and I said, wow. You see, to a Venda guy, respect will include quite a number of things. To a Venda guy, respect would include a number of things, telling you. It would include uthi angifuni, maybe. I should have asked you. But I don't want uthi umkami nakakhuluma nami angibheke emehlweni azibambe ekhalweni, because that does not happen. That does not happen. That generally. West nangabasindisi. It's a different story altogether. That is why you'll have to define it. From time to time, let each other know. Which I feel disrespected. Now, when they are 1, 2, 3. You would find these women, nagasekhaya evenda, nagalethela ubaba noma ubabezala noma ini, amlethela ukudla noma the elders zakubuka ndoda yakhe. Nagafika lana akemi ngenyawo. I found ukuthi kwenzeka. I don't know if donke indawo kwenzeka njalo in that province or something. You know, uzafika enzeni aguqe phansi. You know that. In other cultures, nakafika nje angena eminyango, uya emadolweni uhamba ngamadolo. I checked nabegu because labes corner at one time the corner the traditional leaders ababe corner lab. The dances that were done by women and the dances that were done by men. And then I would be asking, okay, women are, nobody had to tell you now they are paying obeisance. Now it's a dance of humbling, and ultimately, nabaqeda bazolala phansi bathi. Uyabona ukuthi it means something. It's something of submission, and it has a lot of story to tell behind it. So you'll have to discuss it ukuthi kuwe ifaka ini the respect. Because your husband might be embarrassed nakahambe nawe event. Athola ukuthi uyafika ufikile ekhakhakho ufika njena wenza into ezingenziwa. You know? Bonke abantu they expect you ukuthi ufike lapha ufike uguqe ngamadolo unikeze uba kubo is not it's not abuse. It's part of culture. It's an embodiment of their culture. Lana ungayibiza nge-abuse, but it's important ukuthi you understand each other. Ukuthi category respect ifaka nani. It's very, 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 very important. So that you don't hurt your husband unawares. I want to off ramp. I want to get off there because I think there's a lot in this that most probably will come out. I can almost hear, we better, imagine ngabe ufuna ukuthi ngiguqe nangimlethele okay, whatever that means. But you need to sort it out amongst yourselves. It's very, very, very important. For instance, if I would feel, yabona thina last khulele khona, it was not respect. Abelungu abanandaba nayo. It was not part of, okay, call it respect. If umngami afika kimi azonginikeza noma ngabe yini anginikeze njena ngo left ngesandla soda kanje ngo left, it would be frowned upon. Nasendlini they would you know that, isn't it? You don't know that? It would be frowned upon a little bit. It would be frowned upon if she would do that. But nobody had to tell her that because the cultural context, she understands though. She understands those things, you know. She cannot just come to my mother or my father and say, she cannot. Okay, maybe she can, but after having done that, she'll have to contend with whatever assessment. So irrespect is very broad, it's also relative. Honesty is basic, but it's also relative. So discuss it amongst yourselves, your partner. Off ramp. One and then eyes. Two, what men want? Sex, of course. Sex, of course. And then when in doubt, some women raise the question, but how often? Because the counting said, how often? Sex, of course, as often as possible. These are men. Sex, of course, as often as possible. Would you like me to clarify it more than that? Okay, let's get there. Kukhona izinto I would leave for the doctor to delve into. Sometimes uthola ukuthi khona abantu, for lack of a better word, ufumane hore they are not, I wouldn't say sexually compatible. They are compatible, but the other one has a lot of desire to have more, to have sex more often than the other one desires. Maybe it's going to be, maybe you'll also touch on that and what other things can can be the cause, especially if they become medically. But sex, generally, amadoda, sex, as often as possible. I didn't forget what do they want. And they said, when? Whenever it's convenient for the both of you. Whenever it's convenient for the both of you. Where? Wherever is convenient for the both of you. I think it was Gary Chapman who said, things men wish their wives know concerning sex. If kukhona izinto amadoda acabanga ngazo kakhulu, more often, it's money and sex. Madoda ithi amen. Ningahlali seniyikepselinyana lana kube ngathi thini. No, that is ngiyanikhulumela madoda. Ukuthi le ndaba ilunge nanifike emakhaya. Ngiyanikhulumela. If there's anything, I'm telling you. Now, when you get born again, you'll find that you're more concerned about the Lord, and then the second, angazi, the order of priority. The Lord, sex, money, but sex and money, how to make it and what to do with it, and blah. It's my daughter. These are some of the things that they are very, 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 that they occupy the mind. And bonke la madoda ahlezi celeni kwenu bomama without exception. Bomama without exception. Nina enisazoshada le ndoda ithi shada nini. That's why they get a little bit worried now. Khuluma ngendaba yokuthi uJesu uyabuya bangakashadi. Nosindisiwe athi no. Yabona uJesu nangabuya namhlanje and athola ukuthi ngishada next week. Ngizocela ukuthi man please man angilande next week. Just angikwazi ukuhamba. So it is sex. But also that's a subject of mutual discussion. My daughter is a subject of mutual discussion. Do you know how many people are in prison because of rape? Rape my girlfriend wabo, namakhosikazi wabo. According to the definitions of the statutes. We found that there are a lot of women ababophise amadoda wabo, especially uma ngabe kuneskwabo. Uma ngabe kuneskwabo nini athi okay. Rape. And one thing about it is it's very difficult to prove your innocence once you've been charged with rape. Noma ngabe it's your wife. Because umthetho uthi as it stands. If she says no, it's no. But there's no way of proving ukuthi bekavumile. Now, why am I saying that? I'm saying it's important to this should be a case of mutual consent. It's very important to it's mutual consent, mutual consent, mutual consent. Baby, ungangizama na. Awuboni emsebenzini just for 2 minutes. Angakhathazeki bomama la madoda angizwa kahle ukuthi ngithini. Angakhathazeki bangizwa kahle. Just for 2 minutes, just for 2 minutes. Uyangibambeza sengiqede nokugqoka kanandaba. Just for 2 minutes. And medically, amadoda, they can be, they tend to be, testosterone is high in the morning with men. Higher than at any part of the day. That explains ukuthi why indoda yakho ingase icele ekuseni mhlawumbe iyasaba nokucela ngoba unolaka yabo. Hayi ngiyekela well iyasaba ke you know all this thing. But deep inside I feel abana ngamcela nje angizame just before ngiya emsebenzini. Ngoba ngi-right manje, you know. You know, when we're discussing issues, namayama couples as to, nini sisebenza umsebenzi strenuous, busy, sibuya sikhathele. And because sibuya sikhathele, sex is always lousy. Lousy njengomkhuleko ofuna ukwenza nawulala. Ukwabona umkhuleko owenza empedeni. Baba siyabonga, siyabonga usuku, siyabonga. Yeah. Pulu kuku empedeni. Awazi weleni uempedeni pulu kuku. And I lousy, khona ukuba lousy sometimes, you know. Because ni busy, no, you're just busy, especially nangabe indoda busy and a career woman. Ayikho imishado ebhidlika njengemishado yalabantu. Bhidlika, especially at a sexual level. You don't want to hear this, but ngizowenzani? Amadoda amaningi, when you check prostitutes, or check with the prostitutes, you can think ukuthi kuma prostitutes we are abomadegeni so. Next. You find business people. You find rich people. They would rather go and buy mhlawumbe ngoba anganandlela yokucela umkakhe ukuthi ngicela ukuthi manang or ufika ekhaya late and nakafika ekhaya late lalelani ke madoda le it might be a home destroyer. Ufika late ukhathele almost every day and umkakhe with a woman it's not a question of let's have sex then you can have sex. You've got to prepare her. You've got to prepare your wife. You want to have sex? You've got to prepare. Akwazi ukufika nje njengeqhudu. And uthola ukuthi emotionally depleted, ukhathele naye ufuna nje into angayenza hamba yolala. Then uvaya. So amadoda amaningi, even blacks, this has been typical of white guys. A certain white guy uthi has a problem here you blacks. Why ninama? Uthi mina if phone umngama ngahamba nefoni yami. Uthi angina valo lokuthi uthi angina valo lokuthi uzathola ama numbers weintombi noma ufona intombi uthi nix. Uthi thina whites, you know, we don't develop ama love affairs. No. Sibona nkosikazi oyi1 bese sihambe siyothenga kuma prostitute ayikufuni number, ayikufuni next. It's sex without commitment. It's sex without commitment and without emotional commitment. Is it right? No. Net yakhona ukudevelopa ukuthi ifike lapho emakhaya. Uthola ukuthi indoda uma ngabe ifika njalo ekhaya uyilinde ngezindaba. Fanele idlule eindabeni khona abantu abaxabana ngayo yonke into. Khona manje udadewenu bekafonile lana. Utheni? Uthe abantwana bacela abantwana ngiyamtshela abantwana ngeke beze khona manje ufuna abantwana ngenkane. Mina ngisazi ukuthi ngenzeni. Ngiyabona vele abangifuni. No, handle the situation, you know. Don't create any emotionally negative space. Indoda uma ngabe ifika njalo fanele izothetha amacala. Amadoda wafuna umfazi onama issues. I'm telling you, this is true. Bambisani madoda. Good. Ngikhulumela nini? Nix, they don't. They run away. Is that right? No, it's wrong. We need to talk to men how to face some issues. Wasemaga. But uma ngabe kunama issues amaningi ekhaya, especially njalo unkosikazi wakhe nangabe ufana ne-jukebox ufaka imali uzobona kuqala manje kufanele senze, you know, it's and then nini uqala uku-operator, the moment uqala uku-operator kwasawena uqala uku-operator njenge-prostitute. Ngiyazi net ngizamlinda net nasiyolala net nakade ngizaraiza ngithi uyakhumbula le robe ngilicelile now, right? And then when sex becomes a negotiating tool, now you have established in your own home i-pattern angayiqhuba ngaphandle, because ngaphandle unegotiate ngemali, la endlini negotiate ngerobe. Is that right or wrongly so? You know, these things need to be spoken and be tackled head on. That's why it's important. Issues must be dealt with. That's why I believe these seminars are very important. How to deal with your emotional issues, how to deal with your communications, so that there are no things as me endleleni zezinto okufanele zibe ziyenzeka as they should. I'm just about closing now. There's a passage I wanted to close with. I've raised a whole range of things, and I believe each one of them is a subject for discussion on its own. The subject of honor. I love being honored, you know. Angazi kahle ukuthi honor isibizana ngesizulu, you know. There's difference between respect and honor. In English, there's clear to honor. To honor, the word honor ngesizulu, what could it be? Noma ngesisuthu. It includes appreciation, yes. And when you honor somebody, it would include appreciating that person, but also include appreciating that person in the midst of other people. Indoda ningayiboni inje kahle hle indoda kube buyiphasela so. Indoda kube buyiphasela marveli iphasela. Yabona kufanele bhalwe handle with care, fragile, handle with care. That's telling you. If buyiphasela so, bhalwe nje fragile, handle with care. Indoda iyathanda ukwazi ukuthi kuwe he is the man. Yes. Am I out? Wola. Yes. Uyathanda, it's really. Indoda myeni wakho uyathanda ukuthi azi ukuthi kuwe he's the man. You might not be telling him ukuthi you are the man to me, but uyathanda. It's not that akafuni uyasaba. Indoda iyasaba ukomperwa namanye amadoda because he might be found wanting. Mhlawumbe ngesitanda sakhe. That is why you don't even need to compare him. He wants to know ukuthi kuwe he is the man. Utate i-foot stewards, he's a man. Futhi yabona umthathe, he's the man. You're still the man. Yabona ufuna ukwazi ukuthi yabona you are still the man. Yeah, noma ngakuthatha i-foot stewards, but yabona manje right manje, right. Right with all your shortcomings because I love you. You know, I had another man bambuza ukuthi unkosikazi wakhe ashonile, but what is it that you would miss most about your wife? I would miss her. Yabuza le journalist, what is it about your wife? No, I would miss her. Yena. Well, I loved you. Shortcomings, I pre-calculated those things before I signed on the dotted line. I love you. I pre-calculated. Yabona uJesu uthi, a wise man wenzani? Before aqala ukwakha wenzani? He calculates the cost of the building. That's why you've got to calculate the cost. Nina nisazoshada. And cost includes risks. There's a risk ukuthi this man might not come out the way you want him. What then? You'll have to contend with a notion yokuthi kahle he does not have to be what I want him because I don't even know what he's supposed to be. Yabona na ushadile, that man, the best thing your husband can say about you when you die, should you die before he does, he should be saying, I became the person I have become because this woman has been in my life. She's been able to bring the best in me. She's not trying to change me. Amadoda amaningi athi azingami ufuna ukungishintsha, ufuna ungenza into engaya. Imishado eminingi inattention phakathi because people cannot be themselves. Because ufeel ukuthi umkami ufuna ukungifanisa nenye indoda, ufuna angisile ndoda uzakutshela ngelinye ilanga. And when you hear something wonderful, bomage wonderful noma ngabe ikhulunywa umkakho noma ikhulunywa ku TV and the like, don't come to your husband and say, yabona wenzani manje mara umfundisi uthe. Don't come to that. Don't do that. They don't do well. Amadoda don't do well kulawa discussions. Ngoba you might get an answer at manje ngenzani ngumfundisi. Asika mfundisi la sika. Umzwile nomfundisi uZamisa lalela sika Zamisa la. You don't want to do that. You don't want. It's a no go. It's a no. Don't do that. Don't do that. Kukhona izinto I believe udokotela azongena kuzo. These are very, very, very important. Honor that man. Let people know that you're proud of him. And the only way of letting people know what you're proud of him is when you are in the midst of people. There's a couple. We had a couples club, Mengaga, that was 15 years back or something. So we acting, and there was one couple. Lo mama was very ashamed of indoda yakhe. Now she would study. Wafunda wazewa. Abona funda nini at the expense of her family and all this. Nini lendota. She was sending a message of inadequacy because I remember one day when she spoke, she said, "At mina ngiyazithandela ngiyabathanda abantu abafundile, ngithanda abantu abafundile leso sikhathi leso mina wakhe no standard 10 angamphasanga kahle kuphela, right?" I think, and then nayo busy afunda and all this thing. There came a point, nini, we talked with my wife, said, "You know what? She was very ashamed of." Now, lendo lena ndaba. Lendo lena yabona nayikhuluma isingisi base ayuthi bekasiphula beka-invent esisha yabona no. Nakaso people uninvented, nel anganandaba asukuma lana akhuluma kanandaba nangabona inkinga uzayilungisela wena lokuhlezi phansi uzayilungisela no. And we would hear ukuthi uthini siyezwa no. Leso sikhathi leso yabona lo mama utsitsipane and all these things and uzazama ukuyilungisa yabona uhlala uzazama uyilungisa lapha lo mama lo usazama ukuyilungisa noma azama uku-interject yabona azama ukulungisa igrammar. This guy akanandaba negrammar ne. This time has no problem ngegrammar. No. Nakathi I was begone akanankinga wena uzazilungisela ukuthi no akufanelanga athi I was begone so akunankinga. I wasn't, akanankinga. But she was ashamed. She was ashamed. She had never said in the midst, "I love my husband," or "He's the man." With all his, let's call it defects, with all his defects, he's the man. You know, the power is not loving something that is almost perfect. The power is loving something that not defects, because you elevate it. And when you elevate it, when you get elevated. So maybe my consolation to ladies, but I know it comes. It comes. Your marriage, if you're married, it might not be what you want it to be right now. And in you told you just come in, you want to walk out because of this man. You're dealing with a man who probably does not even know what he wants. Maybe it's a chance you go to see, let's discuss, he doesn't even know what he wants. We're confused. Young Masugu, we are confused. We have got testimonies and all these things. I write lama testimonies langa. I write nini. Uzandi nang so kona lan. Uzandi once. Yeah, young. Yeah, there was time Uzandi that. Yeah, no. Yeah. This is it. But he is to find ngabe yabona if you called it quit. You call it quits when it would have been too early. Because when you fell in love, you hardly knew each other. And there was no effort. Falling in love has no effort. You don't put anything. You don't put anything, right? And when you get to know this person, you are born with, hey, I'm a defect, I'm a dent, it never gets right until it goes through that. It never. Sometimes it never gets right until it almost breaks. And it does not break simply because being echo right. No. It breaks because you never sought there were no interventions, you never prepared before you go. You just, it would. If my people perish. Ignorance one. Usatana boshiwe. No musatana ngaboshwa. Namadimon aboshwe wonke. But ati kiebas nige wenu uhlale nazo lasikhwameni. Still you would die of ignorance. So ignorance alone would put your marriage in jeopardy, would cause a lot of divorces. Now, if you think this man, I tried to tell this lady, said, you know what, you know the story of, it's just in the story list. Mengaka wanda, yeah, no, unosbali. The girl kissed the frog, princess or something. Now the story goes like this. That now the girls we used to go by your commands in Tonjene and the like. One day this beautiful girl as a village, night figure lapo puma itlok. You know that story? And then itlok lati. Would you please kiss me? Don't that now I'm short. Not only can you talk, but me kissing the frog. Now, amantombazana wonke waleyo village ayazi ukuthi njalo khona ixoko lapha that wants to be kissed and they. But one day this girl decided ukuthi she was going to kiss the frog. Said, okay, come, let me kiss you. She picked the frog and kissed it. Now the story says immediately the frog turned into a prince. And then this prince says, I was bewitched. I was turned into a frog. Actually, I'm a son of a king. And because you did this, I'm going to take you for my wife. Now, there are women who probably would have stories of kissing frogs. You must still have to kiss the frog. Or at least now. With the hope that there's a prince behind this frog. Would you kiss it? Would you kiss this frog? Because I believe, most probably, there is a prince behind that. Thank you.